Hello there. It's time for Most Things Kenobi. Shouldn't it be All Things Kenobi?
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Most Things Kenobi, a podcast about Obi-Wan Kenobi and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, Leanne.
And I'm your host, Lauren.
And I don't have anything funny to say. I don't have any funny quip. I don't have anything other than I'm deeply affected by what I witnessed in episode 6.
Yeah.
Deeply.
Yeah. We've never watched and recorded so quickly. Circumstances require it. So, I think you and I both have, very raw emotions still right now.
Very. First of all, those circumstances have required me to record in a hotel, so I apologize for any ambient issues. If it doesn't have the quality that it normally does, it's because I have a stack of pillows surrounding me at my hotel desk. So
yeah, James Arnold Taylor would be proud.
Thank you. Yeah, raw emotion, because I just watched this. You watched it last night. As soon as it aired, I watched it as soon as I woke up.
I'm going on no sleep right now also, so raw emotions, no sleep. I very well could cry while we talk. It's a real possibility.
Me too.
I was sobbing multiple times watching this episode, and some of it was relief, honestly, and some of it was just being so moved by the story and what was happening. Mm-hmm. Holy fuck.
Yes. I guess my initial thing is I like how you said relief because I'm totally gonna cry. I can feel it coming right now.
I know, I am too. I should have gotten tissues.
Really shouldn't have put my mascara on. The relief I felt is because we finally got closure.
Yeah.
And we finally witnessed the end of a friendship. We got to see it. We saw it.
Yeah.
We saw the closure that I think all of us needed, that Obi-Wan needed. And us as a fan base, that, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but that was some of the hardest and most beautiful things I've ever watched in Star Wars. The acting on both Ewan and Hayden's part moved me.
Me too. I think it's going to haunt me for a really long time. Even in just the few moments of making my tea this morning and stuff, my brain, I've noticed it just keeps going back to that moment. And I just fuck, hey, I'm going to cry. It was not what I was expecting.
Me neither.
I never thought we would see anything like that in the confrontation that we saw in this episode. It really...
I thought they would talk it out. I didn't think it would go like that.
It was hard to see, but also it was honestly what you said in the last episode. I feel like this might be the best Star Wars I've ever seen.
Yes, I retract my previous statement. This is the finest Star Wars I've ever witnessed.
It was a culmination of every piece of Star Wars that's, at least the movies that's existed so far. There were multiple homages to those movies, and it just
Yes.
It wraps up a part of the story that is the most painful part of Star Wars, I think. Revenge of the Sith leaves you pretty devastated, and to have it wrap up in this, and to have them imply at the end maybe Obi-Wan isn't abandoned in the desert for 18 years, that he seems to have purpose. That really moves me, because I feel really happy to think he might actually be out doing things, doing good, and still being himself and fighting, and that maybe his choice, it was a choice in A New Hope when he lets Vader kill him, basically. Because
absolutely.
This confrontation, Obi-Wan owned the shit out of Vader.
Oh.
It was amazing.
I cannot believe what we witnessed.
Yeah.
I loved when I knew he was holding that pile of rocks, right? I knew he was holding it.
Yeah.
So he could breathe and it wouldn't crush him.
Such a little Clone Wars reference. They do that.
It really is.
Of course, yeah.
It really is. When he just lifted his arms and all of those boulders lifted, and he just hurled them. It was so amazingly powerful. First of all, how great was it to see Obi-Wan do the stance?
Oh my God. That's when I started to like lose my shit. Like, you know,
like he was back.
Yeah, you know the duel's coming, but then he's just like, I will do what I must, and like gets into the pose.
Yeah.
I was like, literally just gave myself
the
goosebumps.
pose. And they held it for like different angles, so you could absorb the greatness. And
So good.
I was so scared, but because I was like, oh no, I don't want to witness this, but I want to witness this.
Right.
But when he lifted his arms like that in pure drama, like, and he meant it at that point. But
Yeah.
to see, like, have Vader just be pummeled, like, because I know he's made of metal, most of him. That hurt. I mean, holy shit, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and like he went right for his weakest point, which was his breathing
did.
apparatus at his chest.
Absolutely. And then he sliced his helmet open. And when that happened, I jumped back in the hotel bed, like back against the headboard. I wasn't expecting it. The only time we've ever seen this is from Ahsoka, the duel with Ahsoka and Rebels.
Yeah.
But to see it in live action is so much more painful. The way the breathing, he was bent over. Did you notice the use of color?
Yes.
They played with color a lot.
It kept switching back and forth, and between both of them as well. Like, oh, it was actually gave me quite a lot of sympathy for Vader in that, not Vader.
Totally.
Because Anakin
It's
inside.
Anakin in there.
Yeah.
He was in there. He was there for a minute. He looked at Obi-Wan with only one eye. You can only see it with one eye. But the acting, that was very hard for me to watch, because somewhere in there he's in there and he just wants out. I don't know how to say it. It's like he wanted Obi-Wan. He has to kill Anakin because he has no other choice.
Yeah.
And what did he say? I'm not your failure.
You didn't kill
Which is projection.
Anakin, I did. I knew that line was coming. Like, I could sense it was coming. And it was so impactful.
The way his voice went back and forth
Yeah.
between Hayden and then James Earl Jones / Vader.
Oh my God.
That was painful. This was the most painful thing I've ever watched, honest. And that covers all the things that we know are painful. This was very painful.
It was. Then they show Obi-Wan's reaction. It's like he's crying, he's got tears in his eyes, and then he says, I'm sorry. I just was like,
that's what I wanted.
Oh.
That is what I wanted from this whole show, and they delivered it in the finest form.
Yeah.
He was kind of turned away, like he didn't even want to look at him.
Yeah.
And he was just sorry for everything. And I know I'm failing at a podcast right now because I can't put it into words. But the pain, there was so much between them. This was the death of an entire era, an entire friendship, a family, if you will, the severing of a bond that would never, ever, ever be fixed.
Yeah. Yeah, the moment where he says that my friend is truly dead, and then turns and calls him Darth as he walks away. It was just like, it was so hard, but it was also like Obi-Wan being freed finally.
He was cleansed.
Yeah.
That was it. He needed it.
Yeah.
But I think the worst part, maybe not the worst part, but the icing on the cake, was Vader hunched over and like still kind of scrambling towards Obi-Wan and yelling his name.
Yeah.
To me, that's the desperation in the 20-something, 30-something that's in that suit, that doesn't want to be in that suit.
Yeah.
But doesn't have any other. He doesn't. I just think of all the things we've ever seen them go through, and for Anakin to yell after him like that, I mean, that fucking hurts.
It's so interesting because we probably all know people like this who need your mercy but push you away out of their anger. And he says, like, I'm not your failure, like I killed Anakin, you didn't. But then he also is like realizing that he's being left there again, struggling to live again, and it's like,
yes,
it's history repeating itself. Obi-Wan's just walking away again. And that also really enrages people who like fuel themselves on your suffering. If you turn and walk away from somebody who's bullying you or whatever, that drives them crazy. And it was interesting to see that moment. And there were so many parallels between things that happened between Obi-Wan and Maul. The moment, oh my God, and this moment was so fucking cool, where Vader like cracks the ground.
Oh my God.
And Obi-Wan falls into
Love
the depression.
That. Okay, cue the high ground jokes, though.
Seriously, I mean, the thought crossed my mind instantly.
The thought crossed my mind. I said, shit, here we are.
But
he finally has his moment.
They filmed it just like the Phantom Menace, where he's in the reactor shaft looking up at Maul, and Maul standing right on the edge there and taunting him. And that's exactly, and I was just like, Vader, you're putting him in a position where he's really good at defending himself.
Absolutely.
And I was like, be careful, you're gonna get cut in half this time instead of just lose all your limbs. But I loved that sequence where Vader then just like covers him in rubble, literally symbolic of Obi-Wan being crushed to death by his history and like all of his quote sins, you know, any mistakes he's made, all of his turmoil is just like crushing him. And I love that they took that moment, then go through the rocks nice and slowly, and they get up in his face and you realize he's holding everything back as much as he can and he's really struggling. And then it's visions of Leia and Luke that bring him the strength that he needs, and he just blasts the shit out of the rock, which is like the symbolic freeing of himself.
Yes.
He throws off all the things that are crushing him, and that's when he's his most powerful. He like steps into his power, and he is the Obi-Wan we remember from that point on all the way through the end of the episode.
It's his purpose that reminds him once again why he is a Jedi.
Yeah.
Why he's one of the greatest humans, those two kids.
Quite possibly the best Jedi ever. Like, he has kicked the shit out of so many Sith. It's amazing.
Yeah, think about it that way. Holy shit. He's a boss.
Yeah, right? Like, I just love that he literally just overwhelms Vader. And the only other person to ever do that is Luke.
And now we know. Now we can rest knowing why the line in A New Hope, what it really means when he says, you were the master and I was the...
Yeah.
Or what does he say?
Yeah, you were the master and I was the learner. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to say we have now solidified all meaning behind that one line.
Leanne, like what you were saying.
It was sexy as fuck. Let's just put it out there.
And what you were saying last week about like, this is the Vader that I want. Like, this is the Obi-Wan I have always wanted to see.
When they give us the characters we know and love, and they don't fuck with them, and they give us them in their prime form.
Yeah.
You're right. We got Vader last week. We got Obi-Wan today.
We've never seen him so powerful. Like, even in Revenge of the Sith.
In live action? Holy fuck.
Right? It felt like they were pulling from Clone Wars a lot. Like, this had a lot of the revival duel to me. They're in close quarters inside those, like, what is it? Is it stalagmites that come out of the ground, I think? Stalactites.
Stalagmites, come down.
Come down and stalagmites go up.
I'll go with that. Yeah, that's... I can't remember.
I think.
Let me Google
Either
it real
way,
fast.
there's like cinder cones that they're like,
yes,
they're going through. Like, it reminded me so much of, like, dude, Obi-Wan is like switching hands. He has like reverse grip. He's flipping around. He's like, oh my God. I was losing my fucking
let's
shit.
Talk about the lightsaber dueling in this one tops all other things that we've seen. He was switching hands.
Yeah.
Okay, the hairs on my arms are standing up. No shit, though. I was so enthralled by what I was seeing. Ewan McGregor, give the man an Emmy for multiple reasons.
I feel like,
please.
Remember Wayne's World where they're like, we're not worthy.
We are not worthy. But for real, though, he did the spinny thing, the Hayden spinny behind the back thing. Some of the moves they did together. Of course, did you see that their backs were together exactly like when they were practicing last week as Padawan and Master? That shit, I live for this stuff.
Yeah.
This is the Star Wars I want.
Yeah.
And we got it.
And like, they're also storytelling while they're dueling. So it's...
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so fucking good.
Absolutely. Oh. I've gone from like depressed and crying to like shivers and being turned on. This is Star Wars.
Seriously. That's a new sticker we're gonna release. So that was the first time I started crying, was when Obi-Wan was starting to like fight for real. Like when he spun the lightsaber into his Seresu position with his fingers out.
Yes.
I was just like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, it's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening.
It's like it's finally gonna be Obi-Wan goes ham.
There's a sticker, him in the pose, and it's Obi-Wan's about to go ham.
That's a great idea.
And he did. Holy shit, though.
Oh my God. It was so good.
And we're only talking about one scene.
I know there's so much more that happened, but that's the stuff that like affected me the most.
Me too, but by far. It was beautiful. It was painful. It was impressive just to watch.
Yeah.
The symbolism and God, just thinking back. I guess I'm not. If you're lucky enough in this lifetime to have a best friend, someone you can call a brother, someone you can call a sister, and you lose them or something happens that separates you from them, that is pain unimaginable. And I'm crying again. It's very hard to know what we know about these two and to know what we eventually know happens to them. It's just very hard to witness like the final severing. It's the closure.
Yeah.
And it's not pretty, it's not happy, but it's exactly what I needed.
Yeah.
We needed. Obi-Wan needed.
It really is. It really is. I didn't even know how much I needed this moment. We know what happens to Vader. We see everything pretty much that, you know, because he's part of the original trilogy. To like have closure on Obi-Wan's story is actually really a relief. Like we said earlier, like it's actually, and because they did it really beautifully. If they had done it not so beautifully, I think this would have been a point of pain for a lot of people for the rest of their lives. But this, I mean, not that this isn't painful in its own way, but like to see this closure.
No, but it's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That Obi-Wan apologizes.
And Anakin says, like, basically says, I don't want your apology.
Yeah, but he does.
Yeah.
There's a part of him, it flickered. Maybe it's me just wanting it, but I gotta believe he had deep love for Obi-Wan at one point. And him bent over like that, the wheezing, the pain in his face, he didn't want it, but that's what he's telling himself. Because any other option is way too it's too painful.
Well, and he must to survive. Like,
yes.
They make that pretty clear in the comics, and then they kind of solidify that in the end here when the Emperor shows up.
The Emperor came back.
Ian McDermott again. Like,
it's good to see Ian.
He's so great.
He's such a fixture, and I just love his varying degrees of like elderly and decay that he goes through, like with the makeup. And this poor man has been makeuped and face, just to death.
Yeah, pretty much. He only got to show his own face for like 2.5 movies, and then the rest of the time he's a heinous mess.
But he looked better than he did in the sequels. I was like, oh, we're back to just like regular decay and old and terrible looking.
Yeah.
As compared to like bony fingers, literal bones.
Oh my God, that was terrifying.
In Rise of Skywalker.
But he even says to Vader, like, this is a distraction for you. You can't overcome your past, and that's a problem for me. And Vader they're kind of explaining why Vader doesn't hunt Obi-Wan down.
Yeah.
Because the Emperor's like, I need your attention elsewhere. Like,
yeah, right.
And it's part of it is maybe convenient storytelling, connect the two plot points, because people are always like, why the fuck didn't Vader find Obi-Wan on Tatooine? It's pretty easy.
Well, I'll tell you, the Emperor knew that there was something still in there, and if he continued to focus on Obi-Wan, the Emperor, good old Palps, needs Anakin to be his lapdog, and needs that full commitment. And he needs Vader to lean into that. And as long as he's fixated on the past and on one person, he can't lean into what Palpatine worked so hard to create, which is Darth Vader. And I think it's a wonderful comparison that Obi-Wan moves on from this point, from his past, and finds hope and some sort of freedom from this. And Anakin is still chained to the person who put him in this position. And so it's two opposing, how do you move on from your past? Well, one is chained by it, and the other is freed by.
Yeah, which is the hero and the villain.
Yeah.
That's always the thing that separates them. They're really similar in every way, except their ability to accept and move on.
And I don't know if you noticed this. I know they played a lot with color in this episode, but I did notice in the final shot when Obi-Wan is riding towards the sunset off in the distance, it's perfectly paralleled. There was blue and red on one side, one on the other.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
And he was right down the middle. It was very faint because like it was the sunrise or the sunset and like just blue sky on one side. So it was kind of a play on, but it was straight down the middle.
Interesting.
Like he was right down towards the whatever end.
He's balanced.
Yes.
Yeah. That's another thing. Like this was edited so well and the cinematography was so good. It almost felt like somebody else was editing it than the other episodes because this one was done so much better. And like the cinematography, some of the imagery is so beautiful. Like when they first meet on whatever planet it is that they're meeting to duel and they show them, profiles facing each other. Holy fuck. Like I would love that as a print on my wall. It's fucking gorgeous.
Yes, somebody please. Oh my, there's a lot. Well, a lot of people thought that this duel would take place on Mustafar, which I'm actually glad it did not. They needed neutral ground.
Yeah, that wouldn't really make sense.
No, a lot of people, I don't know, I saw that floating around. There was some theory or some poster or fan art or something that, I don't know about going back to Mustafar.
Yeah, no, it's all about it's a rock and soil and earth and grounding and like repositioning yourself in grounded safety. Yeah, like it makes more sense to be where they were. Oh my god, it was so good.
Let's talk about Leia.
Yeah, there's like so many other things to dive into.
She hugged him.
Yeah.
Full on hug.
Their affection is so beautiful.
It is truly beautiful, especially knowing, like, oh God, when Bail said, let's hope it doesn't come to that or something, like, and it does come to that in the worst of fucking ways.
Yeah.
It's really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, truly heartbreaking. But she gave Obi-Wan Lola because he was scared. I thought that was so incredibly touching.
Me too.
And then he returned her.
It's a beautiful touch, for him to even say that to her when they're in the ship. And
yeah, I know.
She was like, it helps them feel less afraid. And he's like, well, maybe I should borrow Lola. I was just like,
yeah,
that's amazing. And to me, I think that's like really symbolic of that he's not such a staunch Jedi anymore. He's more like just a force wielder now at this point, and even says like to the group of people that the Jedi must end. Like, you need to survive. The Jedi aren't important anymore.
Yeah, that's the past. It was a lot of stop looking behind and look forward.
Yes.
And I loved Ice Cube's son. What's his name? I can't remember his character's name.
Roken, because it's almost broken, but it's Roken.
Okay, thank you. When he said, I'm just getting started, I love it because I hope we see him again, but it is just the beginning of the rebellion.
Yeah.
And Leia is there. Like, it's just truly incredible. And then we go on to see little cells like this forming in Hera's. We think about like Hera's doing the same thing elsewhere and teams up with the Jedi, and we see this happening, and it grows into something beautiful that Leia leads. It's amazing. She's fucking badass.
And that Obi-Wan gives her Tala's holster, all of a sudden,
amazing.
My brain was like, is that what she's always wearing in Return of the Jedi?
I was going to go look before we did this, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure. And that is so beautiful.
That's awesome. What a great touch if that is.
Tala lives on. Mm-hmm. And I would just like to credit the writers, everybody, for multiple things, but for actually having Leia tell Obi-Wan he needs to rest.
Oh my god, I laughed out loud.
Did you laugh out loud? Because I fucking laughed out. I said, yes, somebody told him he needs a nap. And it's Leia.
Oh my god, that was so funny. I think, I will say that like a lot of this episode felt like fan service with that kind of stuff, and I'm so pleased. Like, thank you.
I don't care.
I'm glad.
They recognize what we're all thinking. What is the harm in that? Obi-Wan needs a fucking nap. We've been saying it for like decades.
Yeah.
And for the last year on this podcast.
forever. The moment where he kneels down and tells her about her parents.
Absolutely beautiful.
Losing my shit. It was so good. Oh my God.
The best traits of both of her biological and her step-parents. He could have been describing her step-parents, but was describing Padme and Anakin. I mean,
yeah,
it really ties into their discussion in the back of that truck, in an earlier episode. Like, it really rounded out that in the most beautiful way. I thought that was so touching.
It was.
What a way to remember them.
It shows how he still has affection for who Anakin was.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like you can see him starting to compartmentalize, what Anakin is now is Vader. And like this is why he tells Luke that his father is dead, because Anakin says that he is. And it's like how Vader even thinks of Anakin. And so like it's nice to see that he can still have the fondness for the parts that were good and express that to Leia. Like,
you remember them for their best. You don't remember them in their worst. You have to remember them for their best. Otherwise, the whole friendship was for nothing. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was a source of great happiness for both of them.
Yeah. And
it's just a terrible, tragic ending to what was so beautiful. And Anakin was a great soul. He, for all the misfortune, just the brainwashing and the lack of help for his mental challenges, there was someone in there who just wanted to do good. Same as Padme, and they met terrible ends. It's just tragic. Star Wars is pain. It's beautiful, but it's pain.
Well, we need to also talk about Reva.
I was not expecting her to not die.
Me either.
And this has nothing to do with Moses. She gave a beautiful performance from top to fucking bottom. But I think she probably should have died. Does she know that that's fucking Anakin's kid? If she does, she needs to die.
I don't know if she knows. Like, they didn't make that clear. Was this like her revenge on Obi-Wan for leaving her? Like, why did she go to Tatooine? So I will say that story-wise, that's not watertight, and I'm not like 100% sure.
Was she trying to kill a youngling to like kill a part of her past? Because she was also addressing her past and going through a cleansing.
Yeah.
So unless she had no idea that was a Skywalker and was just going after the first young Jedi she heard about or knew about or remembered.
Or that like because Obi-Wan didn't protect her, she was going to destroy the child that he was protecting on Tatooine.
Yeah, could have been. I will accept that.
That would be otherwise it's a little bit like, why the fuck would she go there? Especially when she's so injured and like, it's a lot of effort for like a small payoff, especially since Obi-Wan's not there.
Beru is a motherfucking badass bitch.
I wrote that down in my notes.
She is on it, okay? You go over here. I got the blasters. You're gonna do this. We're gonna secure the perimeter. We're gonna get this kid out of here. Like, oh yes, girl.
Yes. I loved that they gave her that because Beru is so like silenced in the first movie. She's just kind of like shushed all the time.
Yeah.
And like to see her like this and to showed their whole family dynamic in a really new way, which I really enjoyed. So like seeing Beru being the badass bitch and like seeing that Owen actually has a lot of affection for both Luke and Beru.
Yes. Yes.
Reva says something like, you act almost like he's yours, and he says he is mine. I was just like, oh, that's nice, because that's never how it's portrayed. I actually liked that, because it makes sense of why Luke is so loyal to them.
Yes. It's not shown in, it's his way of showing.
Yeah.
And and to see first of all, to see little Luke have so many tinker items and like parts and like it's very Anakin of him. It's very Skywalker-y. It's so cute. I was actually kind of wondering if he would like bust out an unnecessary and unplanned use of the Force against Reva.
I wondered,
but it didn't happen.
Yeah, I wondered.
I was like, is he going to accidentally stop her with like his use? But I thought that might have been over the top.
Yes, I actually think that it might be like underwhelming in some to some people, because it's like not a big like action sequence, it's her emotional journey. And
Yes.
you know how we were saying that like each episode has kind of reflected one of the movies? This was so Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
There were parallels to both. Obi-Wan is kind of like Luke and Reva is like Vader. But there's also that moment where, you know how like Luke gets really angry and is about to kill Vader, and like he gets kind of like almost close to the dark side and has this moment of like, whoa, hold on. I've like almost crossed the line. You see that with Reva when she's about to kill Luke and she sees herself in that child and then realizes that she has become her worst nightmare. Just like how Luke looks down at his hand and sees Vader's hand.
Yes.
I was just like, ooh, that was really good.
It's very good.
And then she redeems herself the way Vader does finally at the end. That was clever.
The performance of it all was also very painful to watch because Moses is so good at being very stern and hard and emotionless, and then full of emotion and overflowing. I liked how Obi-Wan said, you chose not to. It's all about choices. Star Wars has always been about choices. What I said about Anakin earlier, he still made the choice to become Vader. For whatever he had in his mind, whether it was for good or meant well, he still made the choice, right? Luke still made the choice to not. And Reva made a choice to not.
Yeah.
With pain and overpowering a child and all of this, whatever revenge she wanted. And it's always just about choices, and I love that because I think we have to be reminded as humans, it's about our fucking choices.
Yeah. And I think that they probably like devastated us enough with what happened to Anakin. I think that if Reva had died as well, it might have detracted from like what Anakin's journey had, like what Anakin's arc had done in this story. And so I think it was actually beautiful to then, because Obi-Wan couldn't save Anakin, he saves Reva. He helps her over the finish line. You know, he even extends his hand to her and lifts her up in like that symbolic motion. And I'm glad she didn't die because her character has already been through so much tragedy, and they so often will just kill the Sith character who, you know, like think of Ventress, think of Maul.
Yeah, true.
And like this is somebody who like might actually be able to not only be redeemed, but like then go live her life and maybe do some good. And how he says that like she honored the friends that had died by making this choice.
Yes.
Oh, I thought that was really beautiful. Leanne.
Lauren.
He said hello there.
It was the most perfect use of that, because that's what he literally says to Luke in A New Hope.
It's so good. Oh my God.
And it was delivered so well. Thank you, Ewan.
So cheeky.
It was good. And he smiled a lot in this episode. So whoever's out there listening was hoping that Obi-Wan would smile. He smiles at the end of this episode quite a few times.
And he does his laugh with Leia where he like crosses his arms and like laughs just
it's true.
It's so great.
It's true.
When she tells him he needs to sleep, he bursts out laughing, which I thought was great.
Yeah. I loved all of it. I loved how Leia actually said, if I'm going to lead, we're going to have to change a few things or something, which is so symbolic.
Yes.
I mean, it's so beautifully symbolic. Like,
and I just fucking love Bale and Bria. Like when Bria's like, is that a holster? I love it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly. Because I was like, don't make her take it off. Nope. She loved it.
And she's wearing the gloves that Obi-Wan bought her.
She is, yeah. Yeah, she put those boots on real proud and got all suited up, and this is her new look.
She's looking like Tala today.
Yeah. This was really a beautiful end.
Yeah.
If you asked me 6 weeks ago how this show was going to go, I really would not have guessed it would end this way, but I am so very happy it did.
Yeah.
This was a beautiful ending.
Yeah, it really was. And of course, the last second, Qui-Gon shows up.
Qui-Gon showed up.
Looking fucking weird.
No, man, I thought he looked great.
You did? I thought his beard was like weird, like...
Well, shit. I mean, in pure prequel fashion, maybe they just glued it on. Like,
That's what it looked like. I thought it was like a glued-on beard. It was really funny.
he did not go to the same Brazilian blowout salon that Chewbacca and prequel Obi-Wan has been to. I will say that. There's not a lot of volume in all that hair, but it was great to see Liam Neeson. It was fantastic to see him finally, after all the talking that Obi-Wan has done to him over the decade.
Yeah. It felt a little slapped on at the end.
I'm okay with it.
I am too.
Truly, I'm okay with
because
it.
we've been asking for it, so they're like, all right, here you go. And it's just
Yeah.
Also, why is he a Force ghost? Like, he's not one.
Well, that's what I thought. I don't know about that, but... I said, you know what? At this point, I'm not going to be...
Well, it was like, part of my brain was like, are they trying to imply that, like, Obi-Wan's lost his mind? He's actually
finally
insane.
gone off into the deep end.
This whole 6 episodes has been a crazed dream.
We go back to the first episode when he wakes up and from a fever dream, like, psych.
Exactly. He's just been napping next to his EOP in the desert.
I love to see the EOP. People were concerned about who was feeding and watering the EOP while he was on his adventure, but I think the EOP was fine.
Well, yeah.
There's plenty of Jawas out there.
He's riding it at the end, so he must have just, stalled it. You know how you can, stall your horse and have people care for it while you're away?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm sure that's offered.
He boarded it.
It clearly was fine and was very happy to see him again.
Or Qui-Gon did show up unannounced.
He's been leaving.
I said, take a look at this guy. I'll feed this
the
thing.
Ghost will
Old
take care of
Kenobi
it.
left him here.
Well, so he packs up his cave.
He does.
Tells Owen, Luke just needs to be a boy. He doesn't need any protection other than you.
Yeah.
So do you think he's off on more space adventures? It kind of seems like it.
Well, I would still like to know the path, the tunnel, the Underground Railroad, whatever you prefer to call it. I would like to think maybe he does help out with that.
Yeah. Season 2 is just Obi-Wan and Quinlan.
The misadventures of 2 lost Jedi.
Exactly. Trying to rescue younglings nonstop.
I think there's potential for a season 2 here, but I would be okay if there isn't one.
Yeah.
I think they wrapped it up very cleanly.
Yeah.
And I would be satisfied if they did one. I'd be satisfied if they didn't do one. I think if you do a second season after how well they ended this one, you're starting to get into frivolous territory.
Yeah, it truly.
Please be smart about this, Disney. That's all we're asking. Do an offshoot with the Cassian show with the path and the tunnels and some nods to the Obi-Wan show. You don't necessarily need to bring, maybe Obi-Wan shows up in the Cassian show. Since we didn't get Cassian in the Obi-Wan show, if Obi-Wan's doing things with the Underground Railroad, don't know.
I actually wonder that.
They're now rumoring that Cal Kestis might get a
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
live action, which anybody could show up in any of these shows.
This is true.
So,
well, the Ghost crew in Rebels is working with Ahsoka, so it's
Absolutely.
not that far-fetched that Cassian could be working with Obi-Wan. I would be okay with that.
totally. I'm very happy. I'm pained beyond belief, but it's a good pain. It's the Star Wars kind of pain.
Yeah.
I feel like I've had closure on a lot of history.
Yeah, I do too. And I feel like they did it. They honored the original material. They did it justice, and they made our character, honestly, just like to see Obi-Wan, who is personally just a very beloved character for myself, get his moment.
Yes.
Where he is like,
Oh, he had it all right.
the most powerful he's ever been. He's compassionate at the same time.
Yep.
He's the hero who can release the pain. What a character to live up to.
Absolutely. Everything we love about him, all in one episode, in one scene, damn near.
Yeah. I feel very heard as a fan, which is so stupid because no one owes me anything. And honestly, as fans, no one really owes us anything. They're allowed to tell whatever stories they fucking want, and we either like them or we don't. And so to see my favorite character, especially after feeling so completely defeated about Luke, to have Obi-Wan at least be given this really honored properly, at least in my mind, that was just,
in my mind too.
I really feel grateful.
Very.
If Star Wars gives us nothing else ever, at least we have this, and I feel very, very happy and grateful.
I couldn't have said it better myself. It's audience chime-in time, and we have one very simple question for you. If you could rate the entire Obi-Wan Kenobi series from 1 to 10, with 10 being top-notch, excellent, A+, what would you rate the entire series? 10 out of 10 or lower? And why?
I don't know about you, Leanne, but I'm not ready to stop talking about this show.
Nope.
So I think next week we will revisit our list of things that we hoped to see in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, and we will see how many of them we got right.
And after having seen the entire show, are we glad we didn't get certain things?
Yeah, good question. That'll be interesting to think about. On last week's episode, we asked our listeners what they thought about the flashback featuring Obi-Wan and Anakin, and we got the following responses. B. Bromond1 on Instagram said, "I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed how they did the flashbacks. I actually liked it better than doing Clone Wars. Clone Wars could have taken away from James Arnold Taylor and Matt Lanter's performance." And Alora on Instagram said, "So I was watching it with a friend who's also a big Star Wars person, and right before the episode started, I was just like, I'm kind of disappointed that we haven't had any flashbacks. And then, all of a sudden, it goes to the flashback of Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting, and I was just like, you know what? This is what happens when you wish for something hard enough, things come true." I think the flashback between Anakin and Obi-Wan is going to live on as an epic moment for many of us.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Most Things Kenobi podcast. If you would like to support us, you can do so on Patreon. In fact, I just posted a wellness check on all of our patrons now that this finale has come out. So we care about our patrons.
Me too.
And as always, you can follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. If you enjoy our podcast, you can go ahead and rate us on Spotify and Apple. And if you need just one place to find all of these things, head on over to our lovely website, mostthingskenobi.com.
So, until next time, my space twin, may the Force be with you.
Always.